Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. My name is Mário Luna, and in the next hour, I will be talking about neologisms, the role of science, the role of language in science. Feel free to ask questions anytime. Just leave your comments or questions in the comment section, the right-hand side of your screen, right? It's very important to say, don't believe in anything that we might say here in this debate, not even what we in the topic today, right? Experience, have your own experiences. Our co-host today is Ricardo Botelho. Welcome to this edition of Let's Talk, Ricardo. What are your expectations for our conversation today, Ricardo?
Hello, Mário. Nice to join you in this conversation. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a very interesting topic. I would love, and I'm certain will better understand what neologisms are and their role and significance in science in general and in conscientiology in particular.
Very well. I'm also highly expecting what we might say about this with these experts today. That these ladies are experts in neologisms in conscientiology because they have they have written thesaurus, and we're going to talk about this. I'm not going to anticipate anything, but just wait and you see. Let me introduce the ladies today, right? The first one is Jaclyn Cowen. Jaclyn Cowen has a background in urban planning and urban design and currently works as an English teacher. She moved to Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil from Australia in 2014. She has been a volunteer of Conscientiology since 2007, a Conscientiology teacher since 2010, and is currently coordinating international area of CAEP, the Center of High Studies of Conscientiology. She is a co-author of the Glossary of Essential Terms of Conscientiology, and her area of research interest is parapsychology, and she's dedicated to internationalization of conscientiology around the world. Once more, Jaclyn, I think that is the third or fourth time that you are in the Let's Talk. One more. That's fantastic to have you here today.
Thanks, Mário. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be here, and we're discussing another very interesting topic, so I'm very happy to be contributing.
Great. Eliane Wojslaw is graduated with a Master's in Arts and has been volunteer instructor of Conscientiology since 1999. She's a counselor of the International Council of Neologistics and Terminology of Conscientiology, ICNEO, and co-author of the English-Portuguese Glossary of Essential Conscientiological Terms, 2018, published in 2018, and the Thesaurus of the Conscientiology Terms, published in 2023. Currently, she volunteers at Conscientiology. Welcome, very welcome. Having a debut participation today, Eliane. I'm very happy to have you here talking about it.
Thank you very much, Mário and team. I'm very happy to be here, and I hope to have a great debate with you all about neologisms.
Very good, Eliane. Okay, and now Adina Oprea was born in Romania and currently lives in Bucharest. She studied literature and foreign languages and worked in the aeronautical industry and is currently retired. She met Conscientiology in 2017 and has been Penta practitioner since 2020 and volunteer of Isaac since 2021 and representative since 2022. She also works as a translator and was co-organizer of the Romanian Portuguese-English Glossary of Essential Conscientiology Terms, and she's a coordinator of the Romanian language team of the Thesaurus of Conscientiology Terms. Actually, we have three co-authors of this book here. It's very important to show you, right? Actually, Adina is not here, actually. Adina is in Thesaurus, right, Adina? Yes. Oh, that's right, over there. Okay, great. The Romanian version. Very nice, Adina. Adina has come to Let's Talk sometimes, and once more, thank you very much, Adina, for your participation.
Thank you for inviting. It's a pleasure to be again here. Yeah, I'm very honored and I'm very happy. Thank you.
Okay, this debate is for ASSIPI. ASSIPI stands for International Association for Intersubstantial Parapsychism. Is one of the 25 consciential institutions that study the consciousness as a whole based on the consciential paradigm as proposed by the new science Conscientiology, right? Consciousness, we say consciousness. Consciousness is you, me, every human being on this planet. ASSIPI is specialized. Each of these conscientiocentric institutions has one specific specialization, right? And ASSIPI is specialized in the study, research, development, and practical use of the parapsychism, an important attribute of for consciential evolution. ASSIPI in English project is a project, international project for internationalization of Conscientiology, and is focused on promoting the study of the parapsychism worldwide.
Yeah, okay. So, Jaclyn, Eliane, Adina, it's a great pleasure to be here with you to talk about neologisms and their significance in science, topics that are interesting in which all of you have a great experience and are specialists. So let's talk about it. And I will start with fundamental questions a question to Eliane, and Jaclyn and Adina may also comment. And Eliane, can you explain to us what neologisms are?
Yes, sure. So a neologism is a word or term that is recently created by speakers, because we speakers we create words all the time. That's part of communication. And it's also a term that is borrowed recently from a foreign language or other area of knowledge. So a word that is recently created or borrowed, or there is a third type of neologism. That is a word that already exists, but it starts being used with another meaning, a new meaning, and it's also considered a neologism. So everything that is new in language that might cause some astonishment is a neologism, right? And something that is important to mention is that they can be simple words slangs, for example, colloquial words. They can be expressions, ways of saying things in different. It's also considered neologism. Or they can be a compound word, a compound term formed by one or more than two words. That's the way the linguistics sees neologisms, right? Any other addition? I have something else to add, if I may, if I might. It's important that to say that neologisms, although we are constantly building them, coining them with our everyday conversations, we, for example, we have to separate neologisms. They are very ephemeral. That's what I mean. For example, we say something that is new. Either in science, we adopt some words in science, or in a specific area of knowledge, or in everyday conversation. And then that neologism is published in an article, in a dictionary. And then after the publication, it's not a neologism anymore. But people might think that they are, because they are new for some people, but they are not. The title neologisms is very ephemeral. It goes away very fast. That's what I mean. Okay.
Sure. And Jaclyn, Adina, do you have any views on that, or what you can consider a neologism, or when a new term, a new word emerge in your views?
If I may, I would like to add that this is a very complex process, and in the study of neologisms falls different linguists, different specialists in linguists, like those that are interested how the neologism was formed, what pattern they used, what is their semantic evolution. There are others that are studying and are following how the neologism develop in a language. And then are, for instance, the lexicographers who add or not that a specific neologism in dictionaries. There are also social linguistics that study how a certain word newly entered in a language can varies its meaning according to specific population, specific age, gender, ethnicity, and so on. So the process is very, very large, and well, it is a topic for many hours, I think.
Sure.
Thank you. Jaclyn.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, and we're going to get into this, in terms of how the neologism, how it's composed. I was thinking about when we're talking about conscientiology neologisms, we're considering this multidimensional aspect as well. So it's another component to think in terms of neologisms, but we'll be getting into that later down the track, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just would like to add something that's very important, especially considering conscientiology, because we started with this. Well, as I said, these ladies are co-author of this fantastic thing, Glossary of Essential Conscientiological Terms, right? And now, check it out, this one, 2 volumes of this, the thesaurus, right? Look at that. So actually, what I see having these editions, having these books here, that neologisms are, I'm just placing ideas for us to work out, right? They are needed, right? Because there is a kind of optimization of language in science. Well, each science has its own neologism, right? It's a group of
Yeah.
neologisms. It's made up to optimize the terms and conversation. For example, existential program, right? We also may call it the purpose of life, mission in life, but in Conscientiology we have existential program, which we just have in one word called praxis. Do you also believe that neologisms are made up to optimize the communication?
Yes, for sure, Mário. And I would like to point out in this point of our conversation that neologisms might be simple words, regular words of the language, or they might be technical terms. So they're called neoterms, right? In the case of Conscientiology, as we are a language of speciality, we are science. We are very specific. We are studying the consciousness according to a paradigm, okay? And so we say that the term, the conscientiology is based and builds its knowledge on its terms, okay? So it's very important for conscientiology that the ideas are expressed and conveyed through its terms. And what we can notice during all these years that I've been in Conscientiology is that Dr. Vieira was the proposer of Conscientiology, and he coined the initial terms of Conscientiology. The first glossaries had about 300 or 400 terms in the beginning. And after some years, more terms were started being built from him or other researchers. And that's very, very good to know, because that shows that the science is being broadened, enlarged, and new specialties are being developed. And so what I want to register here is that they are everything a science, neologisms or terms, neological terms, they are the summary, the creme de la creme of a science. And after we pass away, that's what we are going to stay here. They are going to stay here in this dimension, dictionarized, hopefully, for other generations to consult and to keep on with the studies.
I would just like to mention as well, like in terms of how these terms, like they the idea is that they precisely reflect an idea or a concept. And we could think about, that these ideas or concepts already exist in the extra-physical dimension, and that where, sometimes they come through like as a new idea, a new original idea, and then we give a name to it. But I should mention, because it's a scientific approach, a technical approach, it's that they are concepts which are not anti-dogmatic, anti-mystical, more technical, more scientific. So they move away from these kind of more outdated terms that may have existed. And Eliane mentioned one thing that neologisms can comprise is terms that existed, but they are now updated, right? They're given a new, more technical term, right? That reflects that idea or concept.
That's very good point, Jaclyn. Yeah, I see that, for example, Conscientiology, the concepts, many concepts of Conscientiology already existed in other lines of thoughts and knowledge, okay? But what happened is that Dr. Vieira organized Conscientiology. And how did he organize it? He built up the neologisms and their definitions, because then it's didactic for us to learn, to understand, and to experiment things, to try to have experience. If we have definitions, if we know what are the concepts. And so it's very important what Jaclyn says, because in the past, all this knowledge belong to religion or mystical lines. And now the updating, what was done so far is it's continuous work of updating these realities that are multidimensional, multi-existential, bioenergetic. And what researchers of Conscientiology have been doing is to update and bring these realities into a scientific view, into a scientific approach. And that's very important, because everything changes. When you say that, for example, religion was useful in our past, was very useful. Everyone here, possibly most of us, were in religious lines in our past lives. We were priests, and nuns, and other leaders, religious leaders. But what happened is that religions are very dogmatic. They have their truth and their dogmas. And what happens? Come Conscientiology comes up in the 20th century and is telling everyone, well, don't believe in anything, not even what you are learning here. Experiment, have your own experience. Well, don't believe in dogmas. Work with leading edge relative truth. That is the way, the path of the science. So what do you guys think?
Yeah. This is very interesting, Eliana. Thank you. Could you, and also Jaclyn and Adina, provide us with some examples of neologisms in Conscientiology and comment on their importance and significance in providing a specific description of a specific phenomena or concept, and also their importance in providing an updated version of a concept, as you said.
I think that Adina is just about to say something. Adina?
Yeah, I would like to add something, if you don't mind. I have just remembered that Professor Vieira said that the neologism come from the evolved communex, evolved extra-physical communities, and that our consciential evolution requires neologism. So it's more than just a volume of words designated to represent some concept, some research. In case of conscientiology is much more. It is because conscientiology is the science of researching of ourselves, right? And we are the scientists and the objects of the research. So the importance of neologism is more. And well, he also said that there are three main important conditions for a word to be considered a neologism. Being intelligible, clarifying, and unique. And I think that conscientiology neologism, as I said, are more than a jargon, because they have clarification and recycling role. and they also have retrocognitive power, force. They can help us to remember, to bring the knowledge from our intermissive course. And well, about neologism in conscientiology, in fact, conscientiology is full of neologisms because it's a neuroscience that needs a new vocabulary, exactly not to go away from any dogmatic concepts. And that's why sometimes conscientiology vocabulary can appear to be difficult, but it's not, because it is innate. It's one of our innate qualities.
Those are very important remarks, Adina. Thank you. Before moving to the topic of examples, that would be good to listen to Jaclyn and Eliane on that also, about those comments from Adina about why neologisms in conscientiology are not just new jargons, and their importance regarding their origin and significance. Jaclyn.
Yeah, no, like I think as Adina said, these ideas, they are, you know, vanguard, they're leading edge relative truths, you know, they're ideas that will help consciousnesses, us, to evolve, you know, by knowing about these ideas and talking about them, and it helps us to reflect more about ourselves, you know, who we are. And so, for example, a simple example, just understanding that there is an intraphysical consciousness and an extraphysical consciousness, you know, to help us differentiate, the fact that we're in the physical body, or we're projected, or we're you know, no longer, like, for example, in the past, they used to use the word spirit, right? They still use it, but now we use extraphysical consciousness. It's a more technical word, right? To describe, it's a less mystical, more technical word to describe these consciousnesses that no longer possess the physical body. They've already died or gone through desoma, as we say. So yeah, and these ideas, they, you know, it's interesting because we use, for example, we have with those ideas that we can bring with us as innate ideas or as inspirations from helpers. It's another layer, another process that we go through in order to capture those ideas. So there's different, it's different to just, you know, creating a new popular word in society. So it's there's different layers and aspects to it.
Sure, thank you. Eliane? Your microphone. Yeah. It's closed.
Neologisms,
Yeah.
they are built according to the rules of the language. Either in Portuguese or in English, they follow rules of word formation. And they also follow rules, sociolinguistic rules. They are, for example, they are adapted to that language. When then we are going to enter in the field of translation of neologisms. That's very challenging, and it's something that I'm sure we will have a question about it. But every time we build a neologism, it has to follow rules. And that's very interesting. The neologisms of conscientiology, they are very well built, and they have this purpose of recycling things, as Adina put very well, said it perfectly. And for example, I will answer the other question about which neologisms would you choose. Let's give some examples of these words that are deeply recycling. The term, for example, the term recine, intraconsciential recycling. For me, it was very, I like it very much when I first saw recine. And another one is tocine. That is the acronym for thoughts, sentiments, and energies that we don't think, we tocinate. And that changes completely because we are very much responsible for our tocines. And if you analyze, everything changes. If we say that we exteriorize energies through our thoughts, and that energy is shown in our psychosphere. And a third example I would give to you is the word reurbacks, that are the extra-physical reurbanizations. That is the main purpose of the science conscientiology. We are here to reurbanize our intraconscientiality and also the extra-physical dimensions. That is something very important for conscientiology. And that caused me a great impact when I first saw this term. Okay, so these are my examples. There are many, many, many of them.
Excellent.
Very interesting for you to say that. Oh, would you like to say something, Ricardo?
Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering here something that's very interesting, because actually when we're talking about conscientiology, right? Once again, conscientiology is a neuroscience that's the consciousness as a whole. So it means the study of ourselves, this intraphysical environment or extraphysical environment, and we also consider our multidimensionality or our multidimensional relationships, right? Because we are always changing and communicating multidimensionally every day. So when we have this neologism, it's also an optimizer in this communication, right? For example, as Eliane said, when you have intraphysical consciousness, then we have conscience, extraphysical consciousness, conscience. So this, when we minimize the terms, it also helps our communication outside of the body. Isn't it, Jaclyn Cowen? Would you agree with this? That would be a facilitator for us to communicate outside of the body.
What, when the you're using the shortened term rather than the extended term?
Yes, exactly.
I never thought about that, but I guess, you know, it's a synthesis. You're thinking in a more synthesized way, you know, maybe that helps. I don't know. Does someone else have an answer to this question? It's a good question.
Does it help or it doesn't? Or it doesn't matter, actually? What do you think?
Well, I think. Oops, please, Eliane.
No, it does help. But every new word that our brain dictionary has helps. Every new idea. For example, if we want to have communication with advanced helpers, we have to have to know advanced concepts. Then how they are going to communicate with us? If we study advanced themes, know advanced words and concepts, then it's going to be easier for them to give us inspirations, and so that we can enlarge our knowledge.
One thing I was thinking about actually is if the terms are similar in the different languages, right? Because I know in Portuguese and in English the word's the same, the conscience, conscience. In that case, does it facilitate things a little bit as well, you know? But yeah, I think perhaps, like I was thinking about the very extreme, you have this like consentees, right? Which is sending that information in block, and it's just, you know, and how we get there. How does the language need to evolve until we get to the point where or the mental somatic communication, you know. So yeah, it's interesting to think about.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. Yeah, Adina, please.
Thank you. I think that in terms of mental somatic saturation, for instance, right, the words enter, let's say we learn the neologism. In fact, we learn about a concept, right? And the concept doesn't remain on the level only at the level of brain, right? It goes beyond this level. It goes to the parabrain and to mental soma. So it is something that we learn, or we brought in this life from our last extra-physical intermissive period. It is something that now for the first time, we bring in our structure, in our mental structure, but it is a process that we do for not only for this life, but for the next lives and for the next intermissive periods. So I'm pretty sure that it helps in all our experiences in projected condition or in extra-physical condition.
Excellent. And how about the process of formation of a new term, a new word? How the neologisms are formed in general, or in conscientiology in particular?
Well, we can, as I mentioned, we build neologisms according to the rules of the language. So for example, we have the word formation rules, and the same as they are more or less the same in all the languages. Either they are by loan from other languages, or they are acronyms, or sometimes they are, for example, words that already are used, but they have a new meaning, right? And regarding the conscientiological neologisms, something that I've always learned is that they have to sound good. They can't have cacophonies or bad sound, and they have also not be mystical, and they have to be concise. The best neologism is that one that is concise and is able to convey an idea or concept. So I will give you an example of that. For example, the term consciential paradigm is a neologism, is a compound term of conscientiology, is a new term. It didn't exist in conventional science, and think about how many concepts are inside this term consciential paradigm. It's all the basis and the pillars of conscientiology is inside that term, right? Because we are going to go into all the sciences and the realities that we are talking about that sustain conscientiology. So and that's it. And if you for example, if you researchers, if you take a look in the book, in one of it would be the last book of Dr. Vieiras, that is the Dictionary of Arguments of Conscientiology. Vieira proposes there many new sciences or specialities of conscientiology. And he proposes there, he writes texts, uses them, but they didn't define them, right? So he left as a homework for us to define these new specialities. And community is doing that, because these new specialities is a way of making us to have a cosmovision of things. What Conscientiology also proposes is that we study everything. Everything is possible to be studied. And so Vieira proposed many specialities, many new words that might sound weird at first sight, but they have really interesting content that are important for us as consciousnesses. And there is a group that are doing a dictionary on these specialities. So I think that's interesting to mention, because that's how neologisms are proposed. Sometimes they are proposed, but they aren't defined yet. So it's a work for us.
Sure, very, very interesting. Jaclyn, would you like to comment?
Yeah, there's just a few things while Eliane, you were speaking that I thought about. So, I mean, I'm also going to talk about the translation, right? Creating these neologisms in the different languages, because that's where I have more experience, right? Although I think, like as a conscientiologist, like all of us have this opportunity to create new words, right? Like when we're defending entries in the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology or verbets, each of us will have that opportunity to reflect and bring through our own innate ideas to create these neologisms and to help to advance this new science of conscientiology. Another thing I would like to mention is, like in this, how we develop these neologisms. And you were talking, Eliane, like, for example, sometimes the idea is completely new. It's a completely new idea that's come, from the extra physical dimension. And it actually, you have to create a new word, really. Others, it's where you may join a few words together that already exist that will help to reflect that new concept. And so these ones are a little bit easier. You'll see lots of words where there's like 2 or 3 words joined together representing this neologism. But sometimes it's a completely different word. And especially when we translate as well this neologism into English, and, we have to really, come up with this new word. And usually there's a criteria that we follow in order to produce this new word. Like some of the criteria, for example, to get it as close to the original in Portuguese as possible. When that's not possible, look at the etymology of the word, the root of the word, to see if that same root exists in the English, like the Latin or the Greek root, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole process that we go through. But as Eliane said, the sound, how does it sound in the native language? When you use the word, does it make sense? Does it sound like it could be used and work? And how could I say, will people more likely be to use that word, right? I think it's the popularity of the word is, and how it's taken on board by the people in that language is very important.
Yeah, we are always worried about whether the word is going to catch among users, because sometimes it's difficult to translate. We have many options to translate. Yeah. So that's why another thing that is very important is that, for example, we have the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology that today is only in Portuguese. But that encyclopedia has the most leading edge relative truth that are based on experience of the researchers. And they propose a lot of new terms over there. And it's amazing how they are, it's constantly evolving. The science is evolving, and so the consciousnesses. So we are we. I really think that this neologisms, this terminology of Conscientiology helps us a lot But what is important is that we dictionarize them. If the ideas are good, other people might use them. So we have to put them in a dictionary. We have to publish. Of course, the encyclopedia is a publication. It's also valid. But as when we talk about the internationalization of Conscientiology, and it's important that we start translating all this. It's very important because as we know, Conscientiology is all over. It's for every nation, every ethnicity, every nationality.
Very good, people. We have one question coming from the audience. Anaceno, thank you, Anaceno, for your participation. The question is, do you think using neologisms helps to experience the consciential paradigm?
I do believe so. I think so. For sure, because they have a new approach, a more modern approach, more scientific approach. And for example, when you say retrocognition, that is a neologism of Conscientiology, you are is something that you have a tool. So you have a tool that is let's try to have a retrocognition, that is a remembrance of a past life of yours. Let's as Adina said, this word might function or work as a retro password of our intermissive course. And then when you come to a lecture, when you come to a live and you listen to a neologism, that gives you a click, and you are able to remember. That sounds familiar to you. It's like we call it, you recovered cons from your intermissive course. You are remembering something that you already knew. And so I think they help a lot.
And I was thinking about this question here. As Conscientiology is a science that really depends a lot on your own experiences, on your own experiments, and the results from these experiments, you sometimes just come across situations in which you don't know the name of what you are going through, the experience we are going through, something really new. And this requires you to use a neologism to find a definition, right? Because what is important in neologism is the definition. We need a new word to define the new experience. Adina, I'd like you to talk a bit about it, according to your experiences and as the things. This is not a thing, because as Conscientiology is based on your own experiences, we have really going fast in building up new terms, because we are really have the experiences. We are going through new situations or new phenomena or new ways of having that phenomena that will be better described according to a new concept or a new definition. Do you agree with this, Adina?
Absolutely, and I would like to give an example. For instance, a word that was used, a word like reincarnation, I think that is in English, if I'm not wrong, right, leads to a dogma, to a religion, to spiritism, for instance, right? So in Conscientiology, we use resumate, that leads us to a different level, to a more scientific one. It is something that we can experience. We use our experience, our retrocognitions, our lucid projections, and we can prove to ourselves that we are passing through rhizoma, disoma, and it is a continuous process. It is not something given. an absolute truth like that one that at which we could think when we say reincarnate or reincarnation. It's so difficult to pronounce this, so it's even easier to say racemate. So yeah, we need new words for a new science, and this is amazing. That's why I love conscientiology.
That's interesting. We have Conscien, which is intraphysical consciousness, Consciex or Praxis Essential Program. And sometimes we are talking another language. That's the language of the science, right? Jaclyn, I was thinking about something here. Okay, although you have one specific language or technical language or scientific technical language or scientific language, we have to pay special attention when we are talking to newcomers, for example, or in the audience today. There might be some people who have never, came across the ideas, right, of conscientiology. And how should we deal with these neologisms to newcomers? Should we, dig our heels and say, no, I'm not going to change these neologisms, or should we have a more didactic approach to them?
Yeah, I think sometimes what can help is when, you have all these new words. It's all about helping the person to understand. For some people, they're going to, access these new ideas, and it will just make sense. It will be, it'll be a quick process of, oh yes, that makes so much sense. I'm going to accept that idea. Yeah, right. So that's some people. Other people, it depends. Some people may, there is a process of maybe being able to explain the ideas in a, in a simple, logical way. At the beginning, maybe using words that the person knows to help them to make that connection, right? But the words, you don't want to dilute the ideas itself, right? So I think in that case, it's important to preserve those neologisms, but it's all about how you explain them to people and help them to make those connections.
Yes, we have to also be careful about not trivialize, right, the language. This is very important, right, because we have a scientific language that might be taught, that might be passed on to people and introduced didactically, I think. All right, I think we have another question from the audience, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, we have a question from Christina Rakaki. So can you comment on the possible effects on the development of lucid auto-parapsychism when studying and creating neologisms? Is it possible to share any personal experience in this regard? Thank you, Christina. So would like to...
I can answer, and my friends can complement. Well, in fact, one of the main points of conscientiology is to help us to develop the lucid auto-parapsychism. Parapsychism is every connection you have with other dimension, and every information or inspiration you have from the helpers would be the parapsychism. And self-parapsychism is that one that I develop, and my connections, my own ideas that are being received or caught from these other dimensions. And in fact, I remembered when I was doing the thesaurus of Conscientiology, and because I was one of the organizers of this book, that is the first thesaurus, and it's translated to 7 languages. And what happened is that I had a lot of inspirations of terms that were missing, that I had to include the terms. I had to include because they were really necessary, and I was forgetting about them. And so I woke up with a list of terms and I went there to write them, because they were in a point an essential term of Conscientiology that should be included to show this to the world. And I think this is interesting, very interesting. And another thing is when we are translating terms, I help a lot with the English translations. And some terms we have difficulty in finding a good solution. And sometimes an idea come up. Well, that's the best solution for this term. Well, that's much better than the previous one. Then we revise, because we want a term to convey the idea perfectly, for the reader to really use that term. So that's my experience. I don't know. I wish I had those experiences, that some new term came to me with my idea, but I haven't got any so far. But I think it's a matter of focusing. If we focus, then it's great. But I think that let me just mention something that we were talking about, that Conscientiology is a language of speciality. And I think that sometime we have to develop researchers on paralinguistics, going more deep into what is the conscientiologies, that is the conscientiological language. How is that? How does that work? And we could go deeper into this autoparapsychism and learning new words from the extra physicality.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting question and answer. Any other thoughts, Jaclyn?
Yeah, I just want to mention, it's interesting, this question, Christina, that you said that, because I think the more that you do this type of work, the more synchronicities, the more insights that you have. It's kind of, it's a very interesting process, right? It involves like studying and researching, but through that process, if you're paying attention, then you're able to have more parapsychic experiences or insights in the creation. So it kind of all works together, right? The more that you tune into that. It's interesting because even today, a little synchronicity happened in terms of the translation of the word holoteca. And it came up this holothek, which is a different spelling to the holothek. Holoteca is like the library related to the collections of artifacts and things like that, and collections, right? And so anyway, this word holothek came up, and we saw that it had already been created. An article had been written about it in Osaka, Japan, this holothek, right? It's a different spelling. So it's like the language, it's evolving as well. It's not something that, the words are not fixed. Sometimes, and we don't even know, maybe, we need to go through a consensus to see if this word is okay, of course. But it's interesting how, like, the words can evolve over time as well and change, even the spellings and things like that.
That's right. One interesting thing that I thought of this question from Christina Lakaki, thank you, Christina, for your question and participation, was that when you are studying, when you're having your experience, sometimes you just see something that you don't have an explanation for that. Have you ever had this experience when you see something that we say, no, I can't explain this. I don't have any name to coin it. So it's really, really interesting. People, unfortunately, we are just coming to the end of our debate today. I'd like you to go for the final considerations. Adina.
Oh, very, very short. I think that my experiences in this context, I'd like just to remember about the helper, the function helper, that, I was very much helped by the function helper. And when I started reading Conscientiology in Portuguese, for instance, my Portuguese was very poor, but I still understood. So it is my helper. It was not me there. Thank you. It was a great meeting today. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. Jaclyn, could you wrap up, please?
Yeah, just a very interesting discussion. Of course, we only touched the tip of the iceberg. I think there's with the language that's it's so huge, right? The conscientiological language and all the aspects related to it. So, but it was a real pleasure to be here contributing to this discussion today. So, thank you.
Eliane?
Well, for me as well, it was great. Really, I loved talking to you about neologisms and terminology of conscientiology. And I think we have to continue. We have to have more lives, more webinars about this theme with other focuses, because there's so much to talk about. And it's when we talk about, we enlarge our perspectives, our vision. It's everything changes for the better. And well, I'll try to write an article about it, because we had so many good ideas from this webinar. Thanks very much for the invitation.
Great. Ricardo?
Well, thank you, Mário. Thank you, Adina, Jaclyn, Eliane. It was a great pleasure to talk with you, to learn a lot about neologisms. It will be a pleasure to continue this conversation another time.
Very good, people. I have to thank you for this conversation. Yes, that was a good idea, Eliane. We can have a second part of this conversation. What do you think about this? We can schedule.
For sure.
That's right. I once again, I really would like to show you this. We started with this glossary, people, and now we have these two amazing volumes. How long will we have the third one? I don't think that it will take too long. This is really amazing how the neologisms have been going fast, right? And it's a lot dependent on the experiences and the new approach that we have to them, and how broad they are in the language. The languages are actually, because we have like 6 languages here, right, Eliane?
Yes. 6 plus Portuguese, total 7.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
People, yes, unfortunately, we can have a second part of this conversation, but the next Let's Talk will be on the April 27th at 2 p.m. talking about Beyond Belief, a conversation on anti-dogmatism. That's a very good topic, right? And I have to thank you for your participation, the audience, and with the questions as well. Very nice. Thank you, our guests, our experts in neologism and conscientiology. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, and happy Easter. Actually, happy Easter. Tomorrow is Easter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we have to say happy Easter. All right. Bye-bye, people. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.